Hello, good day. Welcome to What I Wish I Knew. I'm Jacqueline Lane at Vericent. I'm very excited to be having two guests join me today from Moody's on the technical side. So we get to ask questions that sometimes business users have of technology leaders. Avinash Pradip, can you introduce yourselves, please?
Hi, everyone. My name is Avinash. I'm a director here at SPM in Moody's. Before I was at Moody's, I was a consultant also on the SPM space. And before that, I was a technology consultant working on UI and UX problems. And even before that, I was a R&D researcher focusing on uh, energy efficiency and problems related to the environment. So as you can see, I've done a lot of work in different areas, and hopefully I'm here to share some of my experiences with you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Prithif, can you introduce yourself also, please?
Thanks, Agnes. Thanks, Jacqueline. Thanks for having me on this podcast. My name is Prithu Perumal, and I'm working as an assistant director at the business systems team with Moody's. And I oversee the crediting system, ICM, which assigns distributed opportunities to the sales team. And I've been working with Moody's for the past 7 years, and overall on ICM, I've been working for the past 9 years. And prior to Moody's, I've been working as a consultant. So I've got my fair share of experience liaising with both business and the systems team. So I believe that's one of the reasons why I'm here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here, gentlemen. And you are two unique guests that we've had on this show because we typically speak with revenue leaders and sales leaders and ops leaders. So it's really nice to peek behind the curtain and chat with some technology leaders from your perspective. So today we're going to be talking about stuff like how do you get business and technology to speak the same language? How do you move into the build versus buy decision framework and technology roadmaps given Gen AI? So let's start out with the fact that technology leaders and business leaders often speak different languages. And so the impact often is that technology is solving for the wrong problem, or the business doesn't understand how complicated it is to execute on what they think is critical. So, Avinash, can you share with me some of your experience in translating business requirements into technical language?
Thank you. I think before I share that, I think we need to go to before the beginning. Before the beginning is what is the problem that the business has come to the technology solution for?
Mhm.
Most of the times when businesses come to technology teams, they already have a solution in mind and say, I want you to solve this problem. And the technology teams just go right into it. But maybe you need to step back a little bit. Think
Mhm.
and discuss what is the problem that you're trying to solve. And then check, are the business processes going to align with the technology solution that's going to come afterwards? Because those two things will combine to make the day one of the technology solution successful. And in the end, look at what the technology is capable of. Maybe it can do things that you haven't even thought about. Expand your imagination, try to do what the technology can do to the best of its ability, and maybe solve more than one problem while you're at it.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And going back and taking the 10,000-foot view in terms of what you're trying to understand and determining the capacity of your technology against the problem that's looking to be solved. So I'm sure that you've each run into situations where you were aligned with business, sometimes you weren't. Um, do you have any examples of times when you've maybe not been aligned?
Yeah, sure thing, Jacqueline. I can share a couple of examples, to be honest. But to start with, I believe one of the prevailing challenges at the intersection of both technology and business team is the communication gap. And this gap often exists between both the teams. And if you look at this gap can manifest in different ways, ranging from like difference in the vocabularies that each of this team uses, different in their priorities for each of the team, and difference in their objectives of the a specific project that they are working on. And for instance, the technical team prioritizes system scalability and the security. On the other hand, the business team is more focused upon user experience and the speed to market.
Mhm. Mhm.
And these differences between these two priorities between these both the teams mostly like will lead to misunderstanding and also can lead to conflicts in a project that they are working together. So it's quite important that communication between these two teams is really key for any success of any project where both the teams are collaborating with each other. And to elaborate, I can give you an example of a scenario that I've come across in my own experience, is where the team had a requirement to add a new functionality to the ICM product, and they envisioned that to be quite straightforward and thought it is going to add a lot of value in the long run, like taking away that manual work and making it automated. But when it came to the technical team, when we started reviewing the requirement, the simple requirement was not that simple from a technical standpoint, because it required a lot of development work for the value that it was going to add. So we went back and arranged a meeting with the business team, and we kind of walked them through the requirement. Hey, this is the requirement. And based on this requirement, this is what is required from a technical standpoint to build it, how much time it's going to go into it, and the actual value the build is going to give us. So we kind of, based on that conversation, we convinced them that that requirement was better off staying offline rather than being on the system, because because of the little value that it was going to add, depending upon the amount of time and resource it was going into the project. So it just goes to show that from that meeting, the key takeaway for the business team was that they got an insight into what the system was and what system can do and what the system cannot do. And it gave them an overview of what kind of requirement it makes sense to take it to the systems team and try to get it automated. Probably depending upon the values. If the requirement is adding value to a major stakeholders, a lot of stakeholders, or depending upon the value it's going to add, it makes sense. So since then, the business team has been coming to us with requirements. Like, they do their own review before they even reach out to us. But if they have any doubts, they make sure they kind of communicate with that, check with us, and see, hey, I have something. What do you think about it? Before everything is like formally put together in a document, and then we proceed further.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point there. It's really, I think there's technology that solves lots of problems, right? Especially technology you've got in house. It's capable of doing many, many things, and there's a push to optimize versus buy and build that we're going to get into in a moment. But I think there's often the question of how much effort does it take, or is the juice worth the squeeze? If you're going to expend, 10 people building this for 2 weeks, is it worth cutting out 10 minutes of people's time on a weekly basis? So I think that's a really valid point. But I think the broader point of this kind of miscommunication is people don't often understand what's involved in building something. And I have certainly been guilty of being like, just add a button, just add a button. And that can't be that difficult, right? But often it's a little more than just adding the button.
Exactly.
So I think business folks are well aware of what we don't know about technology. On the other side, was there a time or a pitfall that technologists sometimes fall into when it comes to executing?
Of course, there is definitely that situation, and we have seen that situation in our team as well. So there was one of the requirements. So literally, the tech team misunderstood the requirement that the business team had given us, and mainly the misunderstanding of because of the different vocabularies each of the teams were using it, and the gap wasn't identified until we reached the UAT stage. So we built it, we had the build ready, we wanted to get it tested by the business team. We say, hey, okay, there you go, let's test it. And I say, they were like, oh, this is not what we asked for. So we had to kind of get back on the call, go through the requirement, and then identify where that misunderstanding came from, and realize it was the vocabulary difference. And that requirement comes from our business team on a quarterly basis. To be honest, it's quite straightforward. It's not an ad hoc requirement that happens on a timely basis. Every quarter we have that requirement. So we never had a formal process in place to kind of document it and then try to get an approval. So it was all done through just Slack channels or chat channels. Okay, I have this requirement. Can you have it built? But after that situation, it made us realize that how important was it to kind of capture it and get it approved, get everything clarified by both teams. It could be both ways. It could either be the business team that has misunderstood something or the tech team that has misunderstood something. So in order for us to kind of clear that gap, it's very important it's communicated, either through mails or either get on a meeting calls and try to document it and get it all approved before even start venturing on developing the solution for it. So what we realized is overall communication is key when, especially when it comes to like two different teams, business team and tech team, which are completely on a different tangent and have a complete different objectives as a team, individual teams together.
Yeah, I think the theme between what's happening is, communication, and also not taking things for granted, especially when you're getting
Because yeah.
into
Mhm.
technology updates on a quarterly basis. It's really easy to think, okay, we just need to refresh it like we did before. But
Correct.
things change, and then maybe without telling the other team, and then another team is using language that you're not familiar with yet.
Maybe with, yeah.
So thank you for sharing your stories. It was kind of
You're
like you
welcome.
shared you
Okay.
shared IT's weakness in the way that I would in an interview, where I'm like, my weakness is that I work too hard. So that was your version of the IT weakness. Sometimes requirements change.
Mhm.
Um, so thank you for sharing. So it seems like Avinash, Pradip, the community at Moody's, the technology culture at Moody's is one of innovation and collaboration. Certainly, not every technology team has that
Mhm.
yet. Um, can you share some suggestions, Avinash, in terms of um, supporting that business technology collaboration more effectively?
Sure. Um, as you mentioned, business and technology need to collaborate. And
Mhm.
the key to collaboration is a shared understanding of what is it that we are trying to collaborate on. So the first lesson that we learned and we also want to share with others is that we need to understand that both the business and technology teams are trying to solve the problem. Neither of them is consciously trying to block a solution.
Mhm.
And that basic understanding or that alignment is critical to ensure that the discussion progresses in a positive manner. And the second thing to understand is both of us are very different. Business teams and technology teams are very different, and they speak different languages
Mhm.
and they come from different perspectives. And once we acknowledge that, we try to understand what the other person is saying versus trying to um, visualize what we need to do with it. And that comes to the third point that the tech team typically, when we hear a problem, we're already solutioning in our head.
Mhm.
We're trying to figure out what do I need to do? How much time is it going to take? Is
Mhm.
it even possible? Can I do it this quarter? Do I need to wait for 6 months for the next release to come in before I can do something like that? And the tech team needs to pause that consciously and listen attentively to what the business
Mhm.
team is saying. And on the other side, the business team tends to focus on what the tech team cannot do. Maybe we tell you that this is not possible in this quarter, and that's what they nail down on. And
Mhm.
what's critical for the business team is to also look at what is happening and what might happen 6 months down the line once things get finalized on the technology side. So focus on the positive. Maybe we are solving 8 out of 10 problems for you. Don't focus on the two problems that are not getting solved.
Mhm.
The fourth and fifth parts is more aligned and interlinked with each other. One is think in phases. Maybe everything doesn't get done on day one, but it will get done in the future. And trust your technology team to uh, focus on it when the time is right. And the last one, I think this is the critical one, is don't be afraid to be transparent. A lot of times business teams and technical teams are worried that if they're overtly transparent, maybe the complexity of the solution might get reduced, maybe the commitment to time might get written in stone, uh, because there are things which are unforeseen which happen in both the business and the technology side. Like you say, requirements can change, and for the technology team maybe the way we envisioned it doesn't work exactly. So we need to understand that transparency is key, because that's when you know when something is actually going to come and solve for you. So this is the main learnings that I've had in my years as both a
Mhm.
consultant and a business person and a technology person just building solutions.
Yeah, and thanks for that. I think some of the things that I took away is, people not in technology go in thinking, maybe have the preconception that technology is going to be a roadblock or they're going to be
Mhm.
difficult to work with. And so maybe laying down those expectations before beginning to work together is one of the keys to success. So thank you so much. Pradip, anything to add there that you think might be another tip or two for those attending.
Yes, Jacqueline. I would like to add that leadership support and feedback loop also plays a crucial role in ensuring that there is effective and efficient collaboration between both the teams. To emphasize, I would say leadership should advocate and support the integration of both business and technology efforts, and should also model collaborative behaviors wherever possible. And to add, and talking about feedback loops like retrospective surveys and performance reviews, if such kind of mechanisms are put into place when technology team and business teams are working together, like they can give feedback to each other and say, okay, hey, there is a gap. How do you feel about the collaboration that we had previously? If they have any suggestions, take that suggestions back, try to fill that gap and see what actions need to be taken to fill that gap. And proactively, if both teams try to take feedback from each other, I believe it will overall help in achieving a successful collaboration between both the
Mhm.
tech and the business team.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned leadership support because
Mm.
I think in many roles, I think we've all worked in silos, right? So we've worked in silos alongside the people in our own departments, but certainly across the business.
Exactly.
Um, and our executives are probably talking to each other. And so if there's a priority that we don't know about that might take
Mhm.
priority, that could make the difference of moving forward with a certain project or not. So I think that's an
Exactly.
important call out for
Mhm.
sure. Um, so considering, like I said, considering this culture of transparency and collaboration, um, and the technical knowledge you've got in house, how do you even start when this question of build versus buy comes up? So I realize some of it's cultural. Some
Mhm.
companies just like to build their own stuff, but generally speaking, how would you start when you're considering when to build and when to buy?
Um, I think the first thing that we need to do is step back and look at the problem holistically and say, is this a snowflake problem? Is there no one else in the known universe who's had this problem before?
That's
And I
awesome.
guarantee you there has been someone in this universe who has had this problem before, or someone's already solved it.
I am a
Now, once you
snowflake. I think you're a snowflake too, Avinash. Like,
I am unique. We are all unique, but no company is one.
thank you. Sorry,
Totally agree.
there. Carry on. Sorry, I distracted you.
No, no, that's fine. So I think it's important to connect with your peers and see if anyone else has solved this problem. And the community has been fantastic with that. We have a great community on the Varicent ecosystem, and we have opportunity to interact with our CSMs and everyone else to find, is
Mhm,
there someone else who's had my problem? And more or less,
Mhm.
we find that.
mhm,
The second thing is to decide whether to build or buy comes after that. Maybe if in that rare case that your problem is unique or your problem is short term, you might want to make a build solution which kind of gets you over the hump till a more practical solution becomes available. But you need to remember, as you mentioned, that with a build solution, you have to maintain it. And you don't have any support from any vendor or anyone else who knows this. And maybe even internally, there are very few people who can maintain it. So that's a pitfall we need to keep in mind. With buy, uh, you may be buying like a tank for a P fight, a pea shooter fight, right? You
mhm,
may not need everything which comes with that solution. You might need a small piece of it. So that's another thing to remember is, are you buying for a solution for the future? Are you future proofing your problem? Does this problem really need future proofing? Or can you remove the problem from existence via business processes and improving your tech stack, or maybe even speaking with the business and saying, hey, this is really a unique problem and no one else seems to have it. Do we really need to do it this way? And maybe they come back and say, no, this is not as important. And that's a question we always forget to ask. Is it important?
mhm.
And the last one is a hybrid option. And this is something which I always advocate for. Maybe the tools that you have can do more than you imagine. The classic example is, if you have a hammer and nail, you can do a lot of things with it. You can hang a picture frame, you can make it into a keychain holder. It depends on what you can do with your hammer and nail, and maybe you can twist it in a way which works for you till someone discovers that maybe we should buy picture frames which stick to the wall, and once that happens, you just buy that instead. So
Right.
that's where I leave it.
Yeah, I love it. I think that there were some really vivid analogies there. So thank you for your creative storytelling. And I think really solid reasons as to why, the pitfalls of one versus the other and, what the longer term strategy is. And I think those are all important criteria when deciding, is this a short term solution or are we future proofing from a strategic perspective? So two very different approaches. I think you've had experience with both. Avinash, you and I talked about that, as well as Prithiv. We talked about how you kind of got over a hump, if you will. Can you tell us a little bit
Mhm.
about, why you decided to build and how you decided to buy and kind of what happened in each situation?
Sure thing, Jacqueline. I can give you like two examples. One example for build situation and another example for buy situations. I could start with the build scenario. So this was back in 2018. We had a legacy product which was used to assign transactions or opportunities to the reps based upon the rules that have been written in that particular system. So the rules, we had to manually write the rules saying what needs to go, which opportunity goes to which rep, and the system would automatically assign it. So it was between me and my manager back then. So we both were kind of completely transferring all the definitions into the rules into the system and trying to. We were managing that system, a legacy system at that point in time in 2018. We were into like 2 years into that, and we exactly knew how the system product worked altogether. And in early 2019 is when we got a mail from a vendor saying that they are planning to sunset that product and they will not be able to support this product in
Mhm.
6 months' time. So at that point time we had two questions: whether we build or do we buy. So we had 6 months in time, and at that point in time, we had ICM already. We were working with ICM system. So and we both are technically strong. I would like to believe that. So so we thought like, okay, why not try a POC? And while we start off in the process of trying to search for a different product, let's do a POC in house and see how it works. And eventually we built the POC, and the POC was a great success. We could literally replicate the legacy product into ICM functionality by functionality, and that was a success. And since then, we started. Then after that, we built on that success and completely created a territory module in ICM. And since 2019, we have been successfully using it till now. And between now and then, I think there has been a lot of enhancement that has gone into the product, which has made it a complete ad hoc product which suits our business needs, to be honest. And in the process, we have gained our technical skills, we have upped our technical skills from um, ICM standpoint. So we know like what needs to go in if there is a new requirement as such from a big functionality standpoint. So that is one of the examples as to our challenges that we came across where we went for build as opposed to buy because we had the manpower, we had the technical knowledge inside the house, and the requirement was completely specific to Moody's environment, Moody's business. So that worked out for us very well. And coming to the second scenario is about buy scenario. So before I come to the product, I would like to say like we had two scenarios specifically. One scenario we are using ICM, we really worked really well. It's functioning very well. But as you know, there is always scope for improvement. Right. So from an ICM standpoint, we wanted to kind of optimize the overall process because there were a lot of processes being happening, and we wanted to kind of push some of the processes within ICM to another product. So we didn't know what that product was. And the another scenario was where one of our internal teams would spend hours on a yearly basis to convert the definitions into rules that we could feed into the ICM. It's the same functionality that I mentioned in the earlier example which we built. So the internal team had taken that up from us. The team of 8 were manually putting things together and putting it the system to have that assignments go to the sales team. So there are two challenges. One, they were manually updating them. I manually had to create the rules. And the second one, we had to optimize our ICM system so that optimized time can be leveraged and used for some other processes, which would add more value as an organization for us. So there are two challenges. And at that point in time is when ELT came into picture. So ELT being a product, it is from a same vendor that we are working with, Varicent, and it seamlessly integrates with ICM. and all the other products, all the reporting tools. I don't want to name the tools, but it seamlessly integrates into our reporting tools as well. So that was one plus point for us. Second, we already know the vendor, so we know the kind of support that we would receive from the vendor. And third, it was suiting on our it was all the checkbox were getting ticked for based on the requirements that we had for both. And from the automation standpoint, we built a POC, which was a great success, and that's one of the other reasons why we are on this podcast at the moment, because we won the ELT contest.
You sure did. You sure did. So the great use case of how to use
Yes,
Veracent's data process management manipulation
exactly.
solution. Yep.
So we have had a new build, so we started working on. So we're still in the initial build phase and UAT phase at the moment. So we started using the product, we have adapted our product rather than building a new product on its own. We already have a product which we have, and we started working on it on both these requirements. We are almost halfway through it, because on both the scenarios, and there are other projects also in the pipeline which we are trying to not trying to actually we already started. So there are multiple projects that are running on ELT at the moment, which are looking forward to go live pretty soon in a month or two time. So this is
Very.
an example of a buy scenario, right?
Yeah, so it sounds like, you're leveraging the internal technology or
Mhm.
the internal technical skills so that you can kind of use the tool for specific use cases for Moody's. I mean, that's
Exactly.
kind of
Yeah.
best case scenario. Avinash, anything to wrap up the build versus buy discussion, or do you think we captured it in the kind of lay down your expectations? Building requires solving short term problems. Buying, no tanks at a pea shoot. Whatever.
Well,
whatever you said.
I have one last point to add
Sure.
is if you want to buy from someone who listened to your problem and then build a product according to it.
Yes.
And what I'd like to add with all of this is we were able to work very closely with the product team and influence the direction of the product as well to ensure that it
True.
meets what we need. And that has been a key to our success. So if you have to buy with someone who you're friends with.
I love it. I love it. So, of course, a part of the build and buy discussion is really a big part of the decisions you need to make from a technology roadmap perspective. Um, Generative AI is everywhere. What do you think? Not necessarily for your roadmap specifically, because I imagine Moody's has it's their own business what you do with your IT roadmap. But how do you see Gen AI influencing the work that you do, that your team does in the future?
Yeah, that's very interesting that you brought it up because as part of a new initiative, I'm also looking at Gen AI opportunities in the sales performance management space across multiple technologies. So, the first learning that I've had in my exploration is everyone wants to do it, but nobody knows what exactly they can do with it. And that's partly because of the speed of evolution of the technology itself. And second, because every vendor or every technical company that we work with is adopting Gen AI into their use cases at different speeds. So there are certain companies which, like for example, Microsoft, they have basically been at the forefront of what Gen AI can do. They've rolled out Copilot to most of their products, and there are other companies where they're in the process, but we don't have it yet. So sometimes you have to use your imagination and say, "This is what Gen AI can do." So the first thing to remember is that everyone is trying to use it and everyone's at a different place, so you have to identify where are they in their roadmap of putting Gen AI and then pick minimal use cases or easy use cases that can fit into each company's roadmap so that you can partner with them and get where you need to go with the Gen AI piece. And the second part is we've also started looking at certain projects. And one of the things that has captured my imagination is the concept of robotic automation with intelligence or intelligence RPA. And the reason it has captured my imagination is that we are now able to do things which required a human intervention in the middle of the process, where people had to go in and maybe click a button or there's an email and you have to decipher it. That's been taken out of the equation, and people are able to do that piece with a Gen AI product or tool in between.
Oh.
And that enables a lot more manual processes, which people are doing right now, to be automated. So it has expanded the scope of what's possible in automation world by adding the intelligence piece to it. And that seems to be like a very good use case, because a lot of those solutions are no code to low code solutions, which means that once we build it, it can be templatized and expanded to different use cases quite faster than any other code based solution, which requires special knowledge and coding skills, which is not available everywhere very easily these days. So those are some of the areas where I think Gen AI is going to influence us. And I don't think the sales performance management space is any different. During the Varison conference back in May, Accelerate, one of the major topics that we discussed was Gen AI and roadmaps. And I'm seeing Varison also bringing it in with the ELT AI assistant, which I'm actually curious to see how it works. We're entering into the Gen AI space even within the Varison ecosystem. So a lot to get excited about and a lot to learn.
Well, thank you so much. And agreed. I think we're all just at the tip of the spear of what Gen AI is going to give us and how it's going to impact us short and long term. So appreciate it, gentlemen. I want to say a big thank you. So a couple of the key takeaways that I had from our conversation was collaboration is one of the keys to ensuring that business and technology speak together. The other piece with that, ensuring that you're working together, is come in with empathy, the understanding that everybody wants to solve the problem and that nobody is trying to be a roadblock, but also that you're speaking different languages. So patience and empathy. The second thing around build or buy, we talked about whether you are solving a short-term problem or whether you're solving a strategic long-term problem, going from kind of building with the understanding that you're going to have to support it long term. You have no external support, that kind of thing. And buying, you could overbuy, and it doesn't make sense to overbuy unless it's for a purpose to future proof.
Yeah.
And then finally, Gen AI is everywhere. That's the third piece. So as we wrap, folks, I want to go into one of my favorite parts of this is quick questions. So Prithip, I'm going to start with you. Quick question.
Oh, sure thing, Jacqueline. Yeah.
What was your very first job?
My very first job was a junior consultant, and I started out quite early. And my journey between like bridging gaps between business system and tech team, that's how it started off with. So like requirements gathering and talking with the consultant, main consultant, and then the client, and trying to get the requirement and trying to bridge the gap. That's how it started.
So you're trying to tell me you didn't work at McDonald's. That's what I'm trying to tell you. If you could tell you could tell your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Don't be scared to try anything new. Just
I like
jump
it.
into it. Yeah. Jump
I like
into it, experience it, and then just overcome it.
Well
Either
done.
you will learn, either you'll fall down and learn something out of it, or you will excel at it and it'll take you to the next level.
I love it. I love it. The optimism is so good.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you, and Avinash is going to have to answer this question too. What do you wish you knew more about?
And that's for me or Avinash?
Yeah, that's for you.
Okay.
I can come back to you. I can go over to the quick questions for Avinash. Avinash, when you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I had a very unique dream. I wanted to be a historian of World War II and evaluate its impact in society and the learnings we have from it. Because I'm a big believer that everything's happened before. So, like I said, nobody's a snowflake, not even history. Well, we are, for sure. We're the exceptions, Jacqueline.
So I don't even know where to go with this, because my next question is, what's your favorite book or an author that inspired you? I can only assume it's historical.
It is. And keeping to the theme of mid to early 20th century, it's actually Sherlock Holmes and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, because that's one of the philosophies I use to find out the problem, is be observant enough to look for anomalies.
Oh, I like it. I like it. Avinash, what do you wish you knew a handful of years ago when you started learning about Gen AI?
I think the biggest thing is I wish I knew how close we were.
Mhm.
It seems like ChatGPT just fell out of the air, and
Mhm.
I was caught unawares, at least, that something like this was even being developed or how close we were to getting there. I think knowing that would have definitely been useful, especially with my stock market.
Uh, yeah, I wish we all wish we had a crystal ball. Prithip, have you thought about something that you wish you knew more about?
Uh, yeah, I would say if I knew like how Gen AI would have impacted, similar to going back to Gen AI, because Gen AI expert, Avinash is an expert at Gen AI, so we set up calls and stuff. I learn a lot from Avinash, to be honest. So it always makes me wonder, okay, probably I should have started on Gen AI a lot earlier than rather than waiting till now. So
Yeah,
because the sooner you learn, sooner you adapt, sooner you move forward. Otherwise, you will be left back in the race.
it was.
That's what I
Yeah,
think.
I don't know if you were there when our CEO wrapped our Accelerate event, and he said,
Mhm.
"Everybody, put their hand. If you haven't started already, the one piece of a suggestion, the one piece of advice I have for you regarding Gen AI is just get started. It's never
That's
too
it.
late. Just get started." So again, gents, I want to say the biggest thank you. Like I said, it was an interesting peek behind the curtain in the minds of technology leaders. So thank you, and hopefully this will be an eye opener for our sales and revenue leaders about coming to the table with a different mindset and exactly how you make decisions around your
Mhm.
roadmap and building and buying. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for being here, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for this
Thanks,
opportunity,
everyone, for
Jacqueline.
listening.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey, what do you wish you knew more about? It's right here. Follow us on LinkedIn for episode updates.